Never know.
There's Linda.
Just so you know, there's a good minute to 2 minute lag between the live stream and the actual meeting. So when we do get to that public question part, we'll just need to keep that in mind and maybe wait a little bit.
We'll have a little pregnant pause there.
Perfect.
Mike, did you know if Jera was going to join us or not? Or
Jera, if she's not here, she said she might be late. Mark, I was waiting to hear a text from her, so she might be joining us a little bit late.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right, I've got 7 o'clock on my screen, so I'll call this meeting to order. I'd like to welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us, and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Okay. Mike Bauer.
Present.
Derek Lemick, not here. Chris Radish.
Present.
Paul Palmaville.
Present.
Nicole Jones.
Here.
Linda Anderson present, and Mark Kuchar.
Present. Thank you. I'd just like to comment, not sure how many people are joining us this evening. I know there's a lot of questions and concern in the community with going back to school. We do have 2 comment sections during the meeting. We have one here shortly. I'll probably try to give that at least 10 minutes, if not longer. But if we go longer than 20, I'd want to move on to conduct our actual business, and then we'll have another comment section later on, just for those of you watching. With that, are there any additions, deletions, or changes to the agenda? All right, seeing none, we need a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Support.
We have a motion support. Any comments on the agenda? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain? All right, motion carries. Thank you. All right, we now have the first community comments. I know we have one from Ms. Kuhneman. Kelly, if you're available, you want to unmute yourself, you can join us and ask your questions or comments. Is there any other people, Jay, or just Kelly at this point?
Just Kelly.
Just Kelly.
Okay.
Jay did say there's a lag time.
Yeah, but she's actually part of the meeting, correct?
Yes, that's
Yes,
correct.
that's correct. Not for this part. The lag time will be for
be
the Q&A session at the end of the meeting.
So
Okay.
Kelly, if you want to do your comments now, you can. Otherwise, I can move on, but I'll give it another minute for the lag in case anybody out there in the public viewing. Ooh. Okay, if you want to wait, that's fine. Thank you. Give a little bit longer in case anybody else chimes in.
So
there is a comment, but just to clarify, are you going to take all comments on the stream now, or do you want to save the ones for the question and answer session at the end? Because this one pertains more to that open Q&A session. It doesn't really pertain to the meeting. It's up to you.
All right.
Tell me.
Yeah, let's do that one at the Q&A part then.
Okay. Then there is nothing else so far.
All right, we'll move on with business and revisit that later then. All right, consent agenda.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the consent agenda and pay bills totaling $371,540.20.
Support.
All right, we have a motion and support on the consent agenda. Any discussion? Seeing none, need a roll call vote, please.
Okay, Mike Bauer,
Yes.
Nicole Jones,
Yes.
Chris Rabish,
Yes.
Paul Palmaville,
Yes.
Linda Anderson, yes. Mark Kuchar.
Yes. Motion passes. Thank you. Mr. View.
Thank you, Mr. Kuchar. Just want to kind of start out by revisiting our return to learn plan. I'm going to try and broadcast my screen and just kind of hit on some of the main points. As we work through this process, we've had input. I've worked with our union pretty closely, school board and the ISD. I want to thank the ISD for kind of leading the charge. I mentioned that last time. I know some things are changing as we move forward, but just to kind of summarize, I want to kind of hit the main points, and maybe some of the people that are watching can get at least see parts of the plan they may have questions about. Here's a copy of the plan that we approved last board meeting, and just to kind of highlight some of these things. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you zoom in at all? Can you zoom in, Mike, at all? Try to make that larger.
Yep. How's that?
That'll work.
Better.
As we talked about in our last meeting, we will be requiring facial coverings, and those will be worn pre-K through 12 on the bus in heavy traffic areas. We will be providing masks for students, one cloth mask, and we will provide paper if needed, if they happen to not have a mask. We are going to look at having students K1, once they're in the classrooms, possibly not be required to wear them, but encourage them and show them how to wear them properly. So K1 in their classrooms would have a little bit more of a lax mask policy. So really 2 through 12, we would expect them to be wearing them throughout the day. We are going to cohort in the elementary, meaning we're going to try and keep our students together so that they don't intermingle with other classes. And we will have recess at the elementary level, and we will, if they are socially distanced and they're outside, we will not, they will be able to take their masks off. So I know that was a question for some people about us having recess and the ability to take them off if they're outside and socially distanced. So those, if you go through the plan, I'm not going to read it all, but it is spelled out. As far as hygiene, we've purchased quite a bit of hand sanitizer. We're going to be emphasizing the hand washing. We're going to educate staff and students on healthy practices. And right now, we're trying to keep our lockers in the high school, middle school to one per person instead of sharing lockers. And in the elementaries, we're going to try not to have them sharing supplies and whatnot. So that's kind of on our hygiene list. There's actually more, but this is kind of gives you an idea of what we're going to do in that category. As far as cleaning, we're going to be cleaning those light switches, doors, benches, bathrooms with EPA approved disinfectants. The libraries and computer labs will also be washed. Students' desks must be wiped down or diluted after every class period. We're working on a plan with our principals on that. And we will be also disinfecting our playgrounds. We are looking at purchasing electrostatic cleaners that will allow us to mist the rooms and in hard surface areas. Those should be coming in shortly. Athletics, first and foremost, we'll be following the MHSAA guidelines and the National Federation of High School Associations. And we are following their guidelines as we speak. And we are looking at, we're looking at further guidance from MHSAA as we move forward in the pandemic. They will guide us in what types of athletics will be that will be permitted. And you'll notice no hand bumping, handshakes, those types of things. Screening, this one, we've worked with Joel from the health department. He's going to be on in the meeting a little bit later to just give us an update. I've actually been talking with multiple coordinators of public health and trying to get feedback from more than just one source. But we will be working with our local in regarding implementing these things. Any questions? All right.
I just find it interesting. I know we're following Michigan High School Athletic Association guidelines, but I just find it interesting that all these Big Ten schools are canceling, football and events like that. And then high schools are still moving forward with it.
Yeah, that's so far, like I said, we're waiting for further guidance. And just like this plan and everything else is subject to change based on basically from our health department. Mm-hmm. But you're right, I do see that. I see a lot of things are closing as far as the athletics, and it's gonna be a decision that I think will come sooner rather than later. But we'll keep the board posted on those decisions.
Okay. All right, thanks, Mike.
Yeah. If they're ill, we have to provide a quarantine area for them. Symptomatic students will be sent home. Staff, we're going to be doing self-examinations. We've had some questions about this one here. Families are encouraged to check their child's temperature. We will not be checking them at the school. We were encouraging parents to do so. A couple of reasons for that. Number one, we'd want that. We'd rather have them tested at home because they haven't entered our bus or entered our building. And also some concern about random or testing of students' health symptoms. There's some school code that speaks about that. We could do that. Let's say a student we feel has a temperature. We could get consent from the parent and take the temperature. But in those cases, we would only take temperatures if we felt the student had one. When it comes to testing, again, we'll be working with our health department. If they develop COVID symptoms, they're going to be sent home. If they have developed a fever, we are asking that in talking with Joel today that they should get tested if they have the major symptoms and not be able to come back until they have a test. And that's pretty clear that When there's a positive test in Bay County, we will be notified, and we will work with the health department to do a tracking of close contacts. So again, I'm not going to read everything, but if you have questions, that's the part of the plan about testing you would go to. Our busing and transportation, we are buying hand sanitizers for each bus. We are having bus drivers wear masks. There's a little bit of there's a little gray area here depending on bus drivers and glasses and masks, but we're working through that on a case-by-case basis. They will be cleaned and disinfected. Again, we bought the hydrostatic cleaners for the buses. And again, we'll be cleaning those every day. And weather permitting, keep doors and windows open when cleaning the vehicles. Weather permitting, we'll encourage them to keep the windows down on the buses to get more air circulation. We are looking at reducing our routes, or not reducing our routes, keeping our routes without we're trying to keep the buses to be less filled to capacity. I'm working with Jeremy O'Hare and Judy. We're trying to make it to where there's, we can't guarantee that there's social distancing, but we can guarantee the mask wearing and that we do try to separate to the best of our ability. And we are looking at implementing something in where we ask our riders in town. There'll be more people on the west side of 13 who will be asked to walk to school as opposed to picking them up. And that will reduce the amount of students on our buses. Along with, we have about 130, and I'll talk about this sooner a little bit. We have about 130 students that are looking to do our virtual plan. So that will reduce the capacity on our buses as well. So that's basically the highlights of the plan. And again, we put it on our website. Is there any questions about the current plan as it reads? Okay. Our virtual learning, I just mentioned this, that our virtual learning plan, we're going through Edgenuity, which a lot of districts in the Bay Area Neck ISD are going with. We put the plan out on our website. Like I said, we've gotten quite a bit of interest. Once a lot of our surveys, people wanted to know, before they decided if they were coming back, what our plan was going to be. And once we rolled the plan out, we gave our parents a virtual option. Like I said, we've had good response. That's about 10% of our students that have looked into going virtual, and it allows them to stay at home. They work with a certified teacher. We do have a local mentor that will be working with the students as well. So those students would still be within our district, and they would be treated as a normal student as far as extracurriculars and those types of things, because those are virtual classes that are approved, that they can partake in those different extracurriculars. Kyle or Christine, anything you want to interject about the virtual plan at all? I mean, I know we've been working pretty closely on that, but anything I'm missing about virtual?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No, I think you summed it up pretty well. So.
All right, thanks. We'll move on then. PPE and cleaning. I want to thank Chris McClavey. She's been really kind of spearheading this along with maintenance and some other folks. I'm going to look at we just recently, well, not recently, we were trying to get these items a while back because we knew we'd be coming to an area. But right now we have our hand sanitizers with pumps have arrived, our hanging safety guards for around our secretaries. We have cleaner soap, paper towels, masks clear for our adults and youth. We have face shields for adults, face shields for youth, disposable gloves, mask, cloth youth, mask cloth adult. We also have received our masks that have the clear mouth opening, so you can see for early instruction that you can see the mouth. We will be receiving here in the short term, or in the next, by the 10th or by the 11th of August, some disposable masks. We have bus hand sanitizing stations that will be on our buses. We're still waiting on some of the youth masks and the desk shields that we purchased for every student. Those will be shipping on 8/17. And our electrostatic sprayers for our buildings and buses should be in by the 21st. So those are an update on our PPE as far as being able to, to make sure that everyone is, to the best of our ability in a situation that's going to be as safe as possible. We also have ordered signage for social distancing. We've worked with our food service, Sue Ross, about how we're going to deliver meals in the high school, middle school. And, we are really trying to avoid congested areas. We're working in the mornings to let students off the bus at a staggered time so they're not all coming into the building at the same time. They're to report to our classrooms and get into the classrooms. We're working on some passing time, some different ideas on passing time in the high school, middle school, so that we can limit the number of people in the hallways at once. And at lunch, again, we're going to try to separate students into either eating in their classroom or going to eat in the gym and or both of the new and the old gym. And at the end of the day, we're going to try to release students to the buses again so we don't have everyone hitting the hallways at once. So I think with the PPE and the schedule modifications, we can reduce the amount of contact. Obviously, we're not going to prevent all contact, but we're going to do our best to try to make sure that students have either the masks or the cleaning supplies that they need. Any questions on that? All right. Masks. I do want to thank, and there's more to this group, and I will definitely have that information at the board meeting. But we had a group contact me in the early summertime. Her name is Kathy Montiega, and she works with Sue Pemberthy and a group called the Wednesday Craft Group, and they wanted to know if we could help, if they could help us. I picked up almost 1,500 masks the other day that they quilted or they sewed together, and they're very high quality cloth masks. They have a lot of, they have some different types of things where it doesn't go around your ears. You've got a different gizmo where you can pull it up, and it really amazing that they would come out and support us and actually donate that. But there were some financial donors that I want to mention next board meeting, because there was some money involved with those supplies for all those masks. And I'll make sure I want to talk to Craig at the Journal and maybe do a little number so that they can get some I know they're not doing it for recognition, but I think it's warranted that anyone that puts together that many things for us needs a little bit of pat on the back. Mm-hmm. We also had Robert and Stephanie Broderick contacted me, and they are going to be providing over 200 masks for our students as well, the cloth masks. So they will be able to, be utilized as well. So again, good support from the community. I think that they're concerned about our kids, and they're stepping up and donating those items for us. Any questions about that? All right. Opening day activities. Our opening day is scheduled for August 25th. And right now we're planning a combination of virtual and in-person meetings as we continue to, things develop, working with our unions. I just want to let you know the 25th is the day. I doubt whether you're going to see us. Like I said, we're going to be in a combination of in-person meetings and virtual meetings. So when we can reduce the amount of people in an area, we will. When we have to be face-to-face, we will do that as well. And it's getting, like I said, the staff will be reporting in just over 2 weeks. Students will be September 1. So any questions about any of those items? I mean, I want to point something out about our plan. Our return to work plan, because there was a letter that came out just before our board meeting, and it was signed by local teacher unions in the area about, they want to be assured that they're safe if they're going to return to school. And I've worked pretty closely with our union, especially our union president, and we've worked with them, and he wants to let the board know and myself that this letter that they put their name to isn't an indicator that they're refusing to come to work because of the virtual, but I am going to sit down with them here. They have a couple things they want to discuss to make sure that they understand our plan, and so it's not an ultimatum. It's merely an agreement that they feel that they need to know about our plan in detail. So I'm going to be working with our PEA union, and I've worked closely with our steel workers as well with their suggestions on making our buildings safe. So if you see that letter out there, I just wanted to give you a heads up that I was notified that was coming out, and I wanted to give you the context at which it was presented. Would that be a fair assumption to say, Mr. Kuchar?
Yeah, I think to note is that the executive order states that you're supposed to follow the contract, and if anything out of these return to learn plans is out of the realm of the contract, they're supposed to be negotiated in good faith. So it's part of the executive order, and this is new uncharted territory we're going into, and the union just wants to make sure that not only are we safe for the students to return, but also the staff, because young people aren't as susceptible. They're asymptomatic, where we have teachers with asthma or diabetes or some other high risk health issue, or parents or whatever that they're taking care of. So it's they're doing it in Saginaw County and Bay County, and there are some districts that just really haven't involved the teachers union in going back to school, and so this is kind of a unity thing with them. But like back in April, I think our staff has done a good job involving the union. Those are the people on the front line. They can tell you what works, what doesn't work, what skill set, what technology, what resources they have, and what they can work with. So I think you guys have done a good job, and this return to learn plan it's going to be an ever evolving document. We're going to go in there with best intentions, and some things will work, some things won't, and we just need our staff to communicate with us, teachers, support staff alike, so we can maintain the best quality we can for our students, both educationally and health-wise.
Okay.
So are you going to be distributing that letter, Mike?
Yeah, I will distribute. I received it before the meeting. I distribute it to the board.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. And I will, and I've been up front with board members. There are some districts in the ISD that I've heard that may be changing their plan, and doing some different openings and some virtuals and some other different types of plans. Whereas once we were unified, I think there's been some schools going in different directions. I just want to make sure I explained our plan again. I'm going to have Joel from the health department speak to our board, because he's speaking to most of the schools in Bay County. He's going to be a determining factor if we don't go face to face. I do know that there has been an increase in some of the youth numbers in COVID. I don't know necessarily if it's been in the northern Bay County, but I do know Bay County has seen an uptick, and I think, he can share that with you and give you kind of some insights on what he's seeing around. Like I said, I've talked to the Midland director as well, and I know Mid-Michigan deals with Standish and that areas, but Joel would be the one we would work hand in hand with when it comes to situations in our district, as far as if we're in level, phase 4, we're allowed face-to-face instruction. If we run into a hot spot and our health director says that, we have too many cases, they will step in and dictate what we can do as long as it's not safe. But is Joel on yet, Jay?
Yes, he is.
Okay. So I'm gonna have Joel Strauss talk as I get done with my report, and he can kind of give you an update on the health department as far as the COVID activity. Joel.
Hi. Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? Okay. I've got a little bit of difficulty on my end. I just want to make sure that everyone can hear me.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Since March this year, the health department is maintaining the closest surveillance of COVID-19 in Bay County. Beginning in late June and early July, as Mike said, this department worked closely with local public school districts to assist them in developing a plan in conjunction with guidelines set forth by the state of Michigan to begin the school year in a manner that emphasized the health and safety of all students, faculty, and staff. Planning began at a time of restrained growth of the virus, and within the time when the stay-at-home orders were significantly loosened in our community and throughout the state. However, within the past few weeks, unmistakable evidence has established the fact that the virus has significantly spread in the community. In the month of June, there were a total of 38 confirmed cases in Bay County. That number increased by 3.5 times during the month of July. And in the first week of August, the number of confirmed cases is already compiled to 80. I've directed that surveillance be stepped up here in Bay County, and having confirmed and completed our evaluation, this department feels obliged to report this data to you in fullest detail. The characteristics of the current outbreak indicate extensive community spread amongst all age groups, socioeconomic categories, and geographic boundaries. We are not the only county in this current situation. Many communities across the state, including our neighbors in Saginaw, Midland, Tuscola, and Huron counties, are experiencing similar increases. There is a positive development within this current increase. Is that the number of deaths due to COVID-19 in Bay County has remained stable during the month of July and through August. And the mortality rate in our county is lower than surrounding counties. Furthermore, at this present time, our hospital is not overwhelmed, as is characteristic of areas in significant outbreaks, such as the South, the Southwest, and the Western portions of the country. While we're cautiously hopeful that our community will continue to avoid the catastrophic toll of sickness and mortality, we must redouble our efforts, as reopening schools can undoubtedly have a major impact on the course of the virus in the community. We have to be cognizant that while 80% of those afflicted with the virus recover with little or no difficulty, 20% of those infected encounter serious side effects. And this is especially true of persons with advanced age and serious chronic conditions. The other reality we must face is that the virus is incredibly contagious and will infect entire households, even with the best isolation efforts. It's also important to remember that the virus can take up to 14 days to incubate inside of a person, and the number of asymptomatic carriers is a great contributor to its spread. Recent studies and commentary in the journals Lancet and the New England Journal of Medicine have concluded that to prevent a second COVID-19 wave, relaxation of physical distancing, which includes the reopening of schools, should be accompanied by large-scale population-wide testing of symptomatic individuals and effective tracing of their contacts, followed by isolation of diagnosed individuals. However, we continue to be hampered here in Bay County by effective testing and contact tracing efforts because of delays in reporting results and the complacency of some disaffected residents. So let me be honest and clear. It's entirely likely that many of our schools will be subject in the coming weeks to disruptions of limited or widespread quarantine and exclusion orders. This can and will include students, faculty, and staff, depending on the proximity of a contact to a confirmed case. These orders last at least 14 days, but may be extended due to circumstances specific to the situation. So, acting in the best interest of students, faculty, and staff at our schools, and under the authority entrusted to me by the Michigan Public Health Code, I've directed the following initial steps be taken immediately. First, the health department will use all means to work with all local schools to effectively promote and strengthen mitigation efforts, including effective distancing, cohorting of all students, masking, and the temporary cessation or modification of indoor activities that may promote the transmission of virus by aerosolization. Second, as a necessary precaution, I will reinforce efforts articulated in Emergency Order 2020-3 to include schools and educational institutions. I've directed the continued and increased surveillance of the virus and further directed special efforts to work with each school in the county. These efforts include, but are not limited to, the efficacious isolation and contact tracing of confirmed positive cases, timely quarantine and isolation of cases directly related to students, faculty, and staff, as well as the ability to effectively screen symptomatic students, faculty, and staff before they enter a school. Third, the health department will work with all state and local providers to expand the availability of testing with timely results in the community. Fourth, mindful of the fact that many families face difficulties with work requirements and the lack of adequate internet resources, the health department highly recommends and will work with schools and all state and local partners to help develop and implement safe centers for online learning in the event that the districts may choose or be forced to adopt a virtual or online learning strategy. The early days of the pandemic taught us a clear lesson. The virus, if allowed to go unchecked and unchallenged, ultimately leads to overwhelming of our health and safety systems and shutdown of our community. Our unswerving objective, therefore, must be to curb and prevent the further spread of the virus and promote effective means of re-engagement in the community without endangering the health and safety of all of our residents. The path we have chosen for the present is full of hazards, as all paths are. No one can foresee precisely what course it will take or what cost or casualties will be incurred. Many months of sacrifice and self-discipline have already tested our community, but many months lie before us. Months in which both our patience and our determination will be tested. Months in which will keep us aware of the dangers we face. But the greatest danger of all is to be complacent and assume that the old manner of operating will suffice without incident. So I want to thank you for allowing me to speak, and now I'll take any questions you may have.
I have one, Joel. I know that there's been some people that have taken the quick test and they get a positive result, but then they had 3 follow-up tests that were taking the 72 hours, and all 3 of the follow-up tests were negative, yet they still counted him as a positive when he reported that out. Do you know what you're recommending as we, enter this? Are they going to be taking a quick test, or are we going to be giving them the standard testing that takes 3 days? And how are you guys comparing a quick test to the standard test?
Okay, so by quick test, you might be referring to the Abbott quick test, which is a PCR quick test, but is no longer recommended in large scale use. It was initially utilized in many health care circumstances. There is also a new type of faster test, which is antigen testing, which is slowly being rolled out. And I believe that the state of Michigan has signed on to a multi-state compact, but I'm not aware of those tests being available in our community at this time. There is another test, which is an antibody test, which we do not recommend, primarily for the reason that it cannot be used and should not be used to diagnose a person with COVID-19. So we're looking for the standard PCR test, which is the nasal pharyngeal swab. That being said, on an ideal situation, those results would come back within 24 to 48 hours. But lately, due to the widespread occurrence of the virus throughout the South and in the West, many national laboratories are backed up at least 7 days. Quest is a good example. So if you go to Great Lakes Bay Health Center and you get a test, you may get your test back in about 3 to 5 days, but more than likely you'll probably take about 5 to 7 days for that to be effectively read. And the same thing is starting to happen with some of our local testing outlets like McLaren as well. So with that being said, it would be ideal that if these antigen tests come, and they're not perfect by any means, the PCR test is a better indicator, but the antigen test would work so that we can have faster testing. But there are some limitations with that, and it's not as specific as the PCR test. Ideally, what would happen is that like some of these quick tests that I mentioned before, would be manufactured and mass produced so that we could have students, faculty, and staff and workers throughout the county take tests either on a daily or every other day basis. And then that way too, that we could, if we received a positive test in that result, we could get them for confirmatory testing, but exclude them from workplaces and schools, and therefore limit the spread of the disease.
Okay, so with that, for example, we would have a student that shows signs of COVID and they would go into quarantine and wait for these results. Do we quarantine the surrounding students at that same time?
So,
and, how would we handle that? Or do we wait for the results, which could be too late and spread it further?
The ideal thing would be that before a student steps on school property, that they would check their symptoms, and if they are symptomatic, their parents or their guardians would exclude them from school. We would recommend that they be tested as soon as possible. We would basically wait until we get a confirmatory test, and if there was a confirmed positive case, we would look at the close contacts of that student. If that student is cohorted within a classroom, and basically cohorting means that he's set with a group of students and they basically spend the day together and they're not mixed with the entire student body, and so as to mitigate the spread of the disease within a building, we would quarantine that cohort of students. The problem comes when you get mixing of students in greater numbers. So if you've got a great crowd of students mingling within a hallway for a long period of time, then it becomes extremely difficult to cohort or to quarantine specific students. So then we have to provide more of a general notification to the entire student body and to the parents, and the quarantine actually becomes larger. Quarantine number becomes larger. We would expect to see too in a situation like that, not unlike what happened in Georgia, where you had widespread groups of students mixing together in hallways and common areas. We have a pretty fast spread of the virus within a building as well. So we need to be cognizant of that.
Okay, thank you much. Appreciate it.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joel.
Any other questions for Mike and anything that he went over?
Our next meeting is the 24th. Are we in person or are we virtual right now? What's the take?
I would. You want to answer that, Mike? Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. I wanted this meeting to be in person, but the executive order that has us go virtual was extended, and it basically makes us do what is safest. So as long as we can have it virtually and conduct our business, we're to do that. I know some districts that aren't, but we've been pretty adamant about cooperating with all these executive orders. So as much as, since we're trying to get the kids back in school, I definitely wanted to have us back in school face to face. It was advised that we do not do that. So I would like to set up the next one to be in person. We'll have to see if the guidelines are loosened up once we're in school or close to it. I'm not sure if that'll take place. So at this point, I'm going to say plan on it, but this one was supposed to be in person, so it may change.
The one thing we just to comment on that. What we'll have to do if we're in person and there's still this executive order, we can, as a board and administrative team, be in there, but our public comment would have to be from a digital platform. So we could be in the building together, I believe, and then they recommend from MASB, Brad said we would want to have our public comment be a virtual comment, so that way we wouldn't have to have that many people in the same spot. Is that what your understanding was, Mark?
Yeah. So we're still limited to that 10 people inside, so we could have the 7 board members, Mike, and an administrator or two, and whether the administrator cycled through or they just joined us virtually, that's how it would be. So until that restriction of 10 people indoors is lifted, this is kind of the format, or seems like the easiest format anyway. So, any other questions?
Okay, I just want to make sure. Just want to make sure that if we're telling the staff and everybody it's okay to come back, that we're following the own recommendation.
Yep, that's
and even if it means wearing masks for an hour and a half.
Yeah,
there's things I don't like, but it is what's fair is fair.
Yeah, maybe we'll have to adjourn a little bit quicker. But yeah, that is the intent, is to be there in person, but we don't want to violate the executive orders, stick to those as best as we can. So tough, but we're trying. You good with your report, Mr. View?
Yes, I am.
All right, no further questions. Reports from administrative staff. Chris, Sue, Christine?
Yep. Good evening. I just wanted to inform board members that in preparation of our remote learning this past August 3rd and 7th, we provided Google and Seesaw online training from Mark Lyons at the ISD, and we had over 70 plus teachers and parapros in attendance. So they had a 3-hour training, and he went over just basic Google Classroom and Seesaw, highlighting it. A lot of support was given. Our parapros haven't used it, but if we are remote, the expectation is that they will be working with their students as if they would if they were in the classroom. So we had that, and we are continuing training again. Mark Lyons will be back on our opening days, whether it's those will be virtual, but he's going to do some follow-up Google Seesaw training with embedding our curricular programs, our new math and literature programs. And then on the 27th, Mark Lyons will also be available, and we are doing a parent component. So we will be providing PD for our parents. I'm explaining to them how to get onto those platforms, how to, kind of problem solve within them for both Seesaw and Google. That's what I wanted to share.
Thank you. Any other staff? Kyle?
Not at this time, just, working with the administrative team to try to put our best plan forward, on these, as things change, seems like daily. So it's just been kind of grinding and trying to get things up to the community, but in a way that we know for certain that we're going to be doing things. So if the community is listening right now, we're working hard. We're just trying to do it once and do it right. So just be patient with us, and we'll get the best plan we can do for the safety of the students.
All right, thanks, Kyle. Any other administrators? Okay. Board committee reports.
Hi. Yeah, so we did meet this evening at 5:30. We reviewed the documents and the updated Neola policies and approved those with the attorney recommendations included. The committee decided to approve seniors to get out on May 21st if they're meeting all the requirements that were for them. Volunteer hours were waived for this year's seniors due to having limited opportunities with COVID. Kyle said that he would look into other surrounding schools regarding the volunteer hour requirements moving forward as well, and what other surrounding schools are also doing for final exams when students have a B or higher grade. So those are all the things that we discussed.
And that's our senior students for the B or higher grade.
Oh, correct. I'm sorry.
For the
I didn't
early
that
access. Yeah.
Seniors, I'll make sure I put that in my minute.
No worries.
No personal interest.
Any questions about policy committee? All right. Non-consent agenda.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the community eligibility provision program for grades K through 12 for the 2021 school year.
Support.
Motion support. Any discussion?
I'd like to
If
have
not-
Chris kind of go through. Chris had a recommendation in the packet, and I'd just like her to kind of speak to it a little bit so everybody understands.
All right.
Okay. As far as the community eligibility, which is the free lunch program that we put into the elementary school last year, this year we looked at extending it into the higher grades. We did look at it. It's per building. So we looked at it for the K-8 and we looked at it for K-12. Our break-even point is definitely covered in a K-8 scenario. In K-12, there's a little bit more risk that we would have to make up some funding. But after I had multiple conversations with the state, Chartwell's administration, Sue Ross, our food service manager, and some local districts that are using the program also, it was kind of brought out that the risk really entails negative fund balance. So as long as we can keep our fund balance, we don't have to backfeed the program and cover it with non-federal dollars. So for example, we potentially could lose some money by bringing in the high school because the percentage that the state gave us there isn't as high as we might need for our federal reimbursement to cover all the cost of the program. But we can use things like the catering. I know Sue does some of our sports banquets. She does some other catering opportunities. If the students were to buy a la carte, that would be counted against that. So as long as we can keep the program as a whole, where the revenues and the expenditures are coming in even, then we wouldn't have to backfeed and the risk to the general fund is considerably lower. I did do some analysis, and although we wouldn't be adding more money to our fund balance, I do believe that we can cover it. I am keeping the caveat on it, though, that this will be addressed moving forward, and we may have to, change it. K-8, we are definitely all set, but I feel that with all the extra revenues that Sue can bring in, that we'll be okay as a district as a whole.
All right. Thank you. Any other
And also,
discussion?
if we close the campus, this kind of helps to provide that lunch for them as well if people cannot afford it, correct?
Correct.
So I think based on our meeting last time of closing the campus, that this is a good direction to go to counteract that decision.
All right. Thank you. Any other discussion on this item? Okay, we have a motion and support for the community eligibility provision. Need a roll call vote on that, please?
Okay, Mike Bauer,
Yes.
Nicole Jones,
Yes.
Chris Rabish,
Yes.
Paul Palmaville,
Yes.
Linda Anderson, yes, Mark Kuchar.
Yes. Thank you much. Motion passes. Next item on the non-consent agenda.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the Neola special update for Title IX regulations as recommended.
Support.
Motion support. Any discussion on that item?
I think Nicole just explained it well from the meeting.
Okay. All right. Again, I'd like a roll call vote on that, please.
Okay, Mike Bauer,
Yes.
Nicole Jones,
Yes.
Chris Rabish,
Yes.
Paul Palmaville,
Yes.
Linda Anderson, yes, Mark Kuchar.
Yeah. All right. Motion passes. Again, thank you.
Mark,
All right.
Mark, can I
Yeah,
comment?
go ahead.
I just wanted to comment on the virtual or on the community eligibility provision. Our virtual students will be able to get meals as well. They can pick them up on a weekly basis. So we can also, the students that are part of our virtual programs will be able to obtain that free lunch through our district.
All right. Thanks. All right. Public comments. Ms. Kuhneman, you're up if you're ready to go. And then Jay, if you want to queue up other people, hopefully we'll get them after a little delay here. Kelly, are you available? All right. Thank you. Kelly just put in the chat that she'd like to thank everybody for their hard work, what they're doing, and appreciate that it's a lot of work for the staff, I know. Jay, do you have anybody lined up at all?
Nobody else for public comments.
Okay. Well, Mike, are we doing the Q&A after?
Yeah, I said at the conclusion of the meeting. So
okay,
if we end the meeting, then they can. If there's any others, I don't know if Jay has more for the Q&A or not.
Okay.
So yeah, there is a long list.
Okay, so we'll stay on for that, but no other public comments. So discussion items.
Yeah, I got a question, Mike. So, my daughter is going to be a senior, and we were talking about being virtual, but for some reason at our house from 7:30 till 9:30, well, 7 till 9:30, we have zero internet. What are you doing for the outlying community, that can't get good internet service?
For the virtual programs?
Yeah.
She goes totally virtual?
Yeah. Because basically, let's face it, if she's a senior, and I'm sure I've talked to some of the other seniors, doing total virtual is actually getting them ready for college. So that was my question, is what are we doing for the outlying, people that can't get it?
Well, a couple of things we've done. It may require that the students access some of our hotspots. We have all of our buses are going to have Wi-Fi on them, and we are going to put them throughout the community to where students could come up to those spots. We have Wi-Fi at our townships that they can utilize that. We have purchased some AT&T hotspots, and we have to find out how we are going to ration those as far as our students that are in school, because some of the students in school, if we have to go virtual, we're going to probably have to utilize those as well. So it's going to be on a case-by-case basis, but it might require, like I said, we purchased 15 units for our buses, and if we can get those buses into the community to where students can work on, access a vehicle in their vehicle, or potentially, we potentially could have, this is something we need to work out with the high school. We might be able to offer a computer lab for people to come into, and as long as they're socially distanced and utilize a computer lab. So we're doing a kind of a combination of things, Mr. Palmerville.
Yeah, it's the craziest thing. From 7 to 9:30, I don't know if everybody goes online at the same time, but it boots us off and we're done.
In the morning?
Yep, 7:30, like 7 to 9:30 every morning.
Well, the good thing is that if they choose a total virtual, they can do it whenever, around the clock. They won't have to be pinned to a certain schedule. But if you're people who are encouraging a total loss, we have to work with them on, like I said, getting them to spots where we can get it. But her schedule might just avoid those time frames. Maybe she works, she does some book work during that time and then logs on at 10 to get her lessons and that kind of stuff.
I was just kind of wondering what we were doing. I know that we've talked about putting buses in the outlying areas. And I just wanted to make sure that we were going to be able to handle, these students that they're going to need it.
Right. Yep. And for the most, yep, I agree.
All right. Any other discussion items? Okay. I would just like to kind of preface this next question and answer is that there's a lot of hurdles that our district, every district has to jump. 30% of the parents want their students to come back to school. 30% want to keep them home, and another 40% don't know what they want. They want their kids safe, but they want them in the classroom. It's a tough balancing act, and our staff has done a tremendous job trying to balance all of that out. With this rollout of the Return to Learn plan, we pretty much just need all stakeholders to not just think of themselves, but to think of the district. We need parents to check their students, their temperature in the morning, and how they're feeling before they send them to school, and support the protocols, including the mask wearing of the students in school. We need students to think of others and the safety and comfort of others. We need teachers and staff to communicate with us and with their administration on what's working, what's not working. Like I said, we have this plan, but it's going to be a living document. We're going to have to kind of modify it as we go and as we find things that work and don't work. So we're all in this together, and I want everybody to kind of keep that in mind. So if there's no other discussion items, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment, and then we'll go to the Q&A.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Support. Sorry, my on.
We have a motion supporting the discussion. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain? All right, thank you. We are now adjourned, and we can start the Q&A session. I don't know if Jay wants to lead that off, or
Mark, why don't you field the questions, and then if we need to, if you need to, push them to me or to a certain administrator or whatever, that way
right.
you can be the one that kind of delis them out to whoever can have to answer them.
All right, we'll try.
Okay, so I'm just going to read them. Some of them I think you've covered, and some of them may be duplicates, but so that everybody has their voice heard, I'm just going to read all of them that are questions, okay?
All right, thanks, Jay.
All right, so here we go. What will happen to the new sixth grades coming in, not knowing the building and the lockers?
So orientation, would that be, Kyle? What are the new sixth graders going to be doing to get acclimated?
Yep. So all sixth graders coming in are going to have what's a middle school success class. They're already going to be scheduled for that class. And that class is going to be designed to help them adjust from the elementary life to the middle school life. And, it teaches them study skills. It's going to teach them, how to organize, how to use their lockers, all those kind of things. So all sixth grade students that are coming in are going to be assigned to that class. We have 4 teachers that are teaching it. They're all working together collaboratively to help design the class. We've been meeting through the summer for the curriculum class. So yeah, all incoming sixth graders are going to be well prepared for middle school and then to be successful past middle school into high school. So this class, we're really excited about it, and
all right,
hope that you're going to be our sixth graders are going to be our guinea pigs, and yeah, it'll help. It'll make them prepared. We'll be ready to go.
And lockers, you mentioned, were part of that, right, Kyle? They'll be able to work on their lockers and learn how to. Yeah. Okay.
Yep, they're,
I guess.
Yep, lockers, organizing it, all that. So they'll be well taken care of.
Right. And I urge anybody who's put in a question or a comment, if for some reason we don't answer it or you need a follow-up, you can post it here, or again, email the board or call the board office, and we can address you directly instead of this forum. Be happy to answer all questions. All right, Jay, next on the list.
Okay. As a teacher, what will our role be in the cleaning process and mask removal in the classroom for the contaminated sneeze and the daily masks? Do we have all needed supplies to meet these demands?
Mike, I guess I'll push that to you.
I can answer that. As far as the supplies, yes, we will have supplies. I mentioned earlier in the meeting, we will have gloves. In the case of somebody that has potentially that situation where a student happens to have an infected mask or whatnot, we are going to be asking the teacher to summon a custodian who is going to have to wear a shield, a mask, and protective gloves to remove those types of items, and then clean that with the EPA disinfectant. So that scenario is kind of laid out in the plan, that if there's an infected student and we suspect they're infected, we're going to take precautionary measures. Custodians will come in. Like I said, they have to wear masks and shields along with gloves to clean that type of situation up. But yes, we will be providing cloth masks, and we will be providing hand sanitizer in the classrooms, and we have disinfectant bottles of approved cleaner that will be sprayed on the desks in between class sessions. And right now that we're working out that plan, but at this point we're looking at potentially having the students involved in that process. So we're working out the fine details on that.
Okay. Hopefully that answered that question. Jay, go ahead with the next one.
The next one is more of a comment. It just says buses should be disinfected after every route.
Yeah, that's actually part of the executive order. That has to be done. So I guess, Mike, you can affirm that that's going to be done.
Yeah, they're gonna clean them before the route, after the route, and if they have to go on a midday route to like the Boys and Girls Club, they will disinfect in between that route as well. Like I said, Jeremy's made. We've got the electrostatic cleaners that should help speed that process up. So I know Jeremy's been working on getting our bus, our cleaning supplies ordered for that.
All right. Thank you. All right, Jay.
Okay. How will band work? I have two in middle school, 6th grade, that hasn't picked up an instrument yet, or hasn't picked an instrument yet.
Band and choir and PE are all going to be in the same situation. We will be having band outdoors, socially distanced, and they will play outside. If they have to come inside, then we have to adjust instruction to be more of a music theory or studying certain types of music. We're working with our band director, and I know our principals have talked to the vocal music that we are not going to be singing or playing inside. So any type of music will be outdoors, as well as our PE classes. If they're indoors, they'll have to socially distance in the gym and do exercises that are where they're 6 feet apart or more. So they're going to be if they haven't picked an instrument, then they'll be playing the instrument outdoors to figure it out. Do you think I answered that question all right?
I think you did. I think it's a good answer. I don't think it's what people want to see or hear. But quite frankly, the governor's safe return, that's how we have to do it. We'd like to do more, but those guidelines are pretty stringent, and that's what we have to do to meet the guideline if we want kids in school. So I think that's a good answer. And I know that's what the majority of schools who that are returning, that's what they're doing also. So again, good answer, and thanks for the question. Next one, Jay.
For elementary children where both parents work full-time, what plan do you have for them to do online school if we close, specifically for those who do not have friends or family available to help?
That's a tough one, Mike.
So if they have both parents work and we go virtual, and I'm assuming they're working with our teachers and not on a Edgenuity platform, we're gonna make those teachers available to work with the students. And if there's, it's going to create some hardships. I think this is across the country that we will have to if we can't meet, we can't really offer. If we go back to stage 3, we really can't provide like learning labs or any type of public instruction. So it's going to have to be done at home. So I would hope we could build some systems where we could have office hours for some of our teachers that would be available for those parents that work later. We could potentially do some online tutoring where we offer some assistance, where we have a call-in number where parents could call in and get assistance from a certified teacher. But that's something we're going to have to cross when we get there. But I do think that in this case, if we go virtual, we're preparing for it this year. Our teachers are becoming better adapted at, like Christine said, we just had 70 staff members go into a virtual environment to where if we have to transition, they have better the skill set to work with those students. But I don't have a magic answer for the working families other than we will try to facilitate our staff to work with parents if it's an after hours thing where they might need some assistance. But that's the best answer I have.
Yeah. All the people in that situation, if you have both parents working during the school day, it's a matter of who's going to be watching your children, whether it's a neighbor or a family member, or are they going to be at, some other facility, and can those facilities provide the assistance also? It's not a good situation. And if anybody has suggestions, we're more than willing to hear them, because we've really been trying to do whatever we can with this. And this is one thing that I don't think many districts have solved, which is another reason why many districts want to get back in the classroom, because it helps kids learn. I know it helps parents take care of their household. So we're trying, and we are definitely open to suggestions. All right, Jay.
Will students be switching classes? If so, will they be staggered so there aren't so many kids in the hallways at one time? Also, will sneeze guards / desks be cleaned between each hour?
Go ahead, Mike.
We are looking at staggering our release times right now in the high school and middle school. And that it's looking like, it's kind of hard because we don't have a true middle school. In high school, we share our staff. So we just can't say we're going to release middle school 2 minutes early. So Kyle and I have been working on a plan in Dwayne about potentially, again, I have to work with our union on this too, because it deals with our passing time, which counts for instructional time. But we're looking at potentially coding students, potentially white and green. So if, we do a tone or a buzzer at a minute early or a minute, we release the white students and then wait 30 seconds or a minute and a half to release the green. Then they go out in the hallway. So we reduce the amount of the, the traffic in the hallway. So we are working on a plan to reduce that. Like I said, we're also reducing when we come here, we're not dropping all our buses off at once. We're staggering who we drop off our buses. We're preventing the big lunch crowds, and we're also trying to stagger our release so that they load up buses where we don't have as many students. So as far as the sneeze guards, they're really not sneeze guards. I guess there are desk shields we're providing, and we would encourage those to be washed because there's going to be cleaning supplies in the classrooms, so those could be washed. Those would be their own sneeze guard. If they have to clean their desk, they could just as easily do their desk shield.
Okay. Real quick, and Ms. Kuhneman got back on and want to know about teachers rotating classrooms as opposed to the students. I know we're doing that at my school district where I teach. I don't know if we discussed that here. I know it's difficult with the middle school and high school, but you want to touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, we are looking at, it's really hard to do in the high school. So there's going to have to be movement, but we also in the elementaries, we're looking at bringing in like the music teacher, bringing in the special ed services, so that in the elementaries, they're more cohorted where there's not the interaction. But in the high school, middle school, it's just near impossible to have teachers move because there's just the variance of the schedule and where they would have to go. And Kyle, we talked a little bit about this. Have we gotten anywhere with that at the high school level?
You know, I've talked to a lot of other principals around the surrounding area, and the biggest problem that we're having with middle school and high school, because a lot of them are shared staff, you know, with the middle school and high school, is that the pooling. So if we release certain groups early, the problem is that they're just sitting outside of a teacher's classroom waiting for the other class to leave. So because we're shared staff, we're going to have a lot of that. So that's a big obstacle that we're trying to overcome right now as far as passing time. We've thrown a lot of things at the board. Nothing's really stuck yet, but I can say that we're in constant discussions and it's a topic every day. And the group that I've been talking to with principals, we're communicating daily, trying to throw ideas out there and get something that works. I don't think there's a perfect plan out there. I think what I've kind of realized through the process is that there's something we can do to limit the amount of kids in the hallway, but there's going to be problems with each plan that we have. It's just kind of taking the lesser of the two evils.
So, well, that's a really great idea, and it can work at the elementary level where the kids are basically in a homeroom and it's a little bit easier to do all that. At the middle school and high school level, what really throws that off is the electives. Every kid will have math, every kid will have English, social studies, but what do you do for the other 2 hours of the day where they may have choir or they may have band or they may have shop, you know, or photography or Spanish, you know, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. Is that you can't leave them all in the same room. So it's definitely something we've thought of, and we're trying to play around with it and find the best way, and we're still working on it. We got a few more weeks yet, but again, thanks for the comment. And again, anybody has suggestions, feel free to throw them at us. We probably have bounced it around, but always looking for more input.
And to some degree, we are doing that. I mean, it's just not wide scale.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Jay.
How are lunches going to be served? Hot lunch, sack lunches. How will you keep kids from touching everything?
Kyle?
Yep. Okay. So the way for the middle school, high school anyway, is we've separated. So there's a high school lunch, there's a middle school lunch. For the high school lunch, there's a green group and a white group. And for the middle school lunch, there's a green and white group. The green group's going to be in the middle school gym. White group is going to be in the high school gym. They're going to be sitting socially distant, or they will have their desk shields with them at a table, and they'll have to bring those to the table when they eat. As far as lunches, we've talked with the union, and students will have option of three options for lunch. They'll make that decision during first hour, and then the lunch service people will prepare it, and then they'll be ready to go basically when they get to the lunchroom. And we haven't figured out a perfect idea for how for them to grab their lunch, but the lunches are going to be predetermined first hour. And by the time the students go to lunch, their lunch will be packaged up, ready to go, and delivered to the student. So, you know, we're separating kids by different gyms. At least that's the thought right now. And the students will make their choice of which lunch they want during first hour, so that it limits. There's not going to be any like buffet lines or anything like that moving forward.
Sue, do you want to comment on some of the safety protocol that you have in store for our food service?
Go ahead, Sue.
We are doing, as Kyle had mentioned, the food, by the time the meal reaches the students in their designated meal area, the meal will be pre-packaged in a closed container. It will only be touched by the student after it's been prepared in the kitchen area. For elementary serving, we are going to be serving the students again in prepackaged, predetermined meals, and those will be delivered to the classrooms, and they will only be handled by the student that will be consuming that meal.
Great, thank you. I know that's what most other, I haven't heard of any other district doing anything other than that. So, all right, thank you.
Mhm.
All right, Jay?
Okay. The three virtual days scheduled in September, what is expected of the students/parents, thinking again for young elementary age and working parents?
What's expected on the virtual days is that they engage in some type of digital. We'll have lessons for the student to work on. Again, those students could choose to work on that upon return of their parent. They could work on it, but we're using these virtual days as a way to transition if need be. If the COVID rises, we have to go virtual. These are days that we need to start to prepare teachers and our students how to do that. So what the expectation is going to be is that the teachers are going to be available virtually during that day, and the students will have their assignments. If they choose to wait, if they do their assignments later, because when they say a virtual day isn't normally a 6-hour day, if you have content from you take away passing time, you take away riding the bus, your instruction is 2 to 3 hours. So those are the types of things that parents need to know, that if on these virtual days their student is young and it needs support, they'll have the materials and be able to reach out to do that work, potentially, later in the day when the parents are there, or they can do it real time if there's some type of Zoom activity going on. But we're going to work those to be able to transition, if need be, into a full virtual platform.
Great, and I just want to add to that if I can.
Yep, go ahead, Kyle.
Yep, so those virtual days are on a Wednesday. So the idea behind that, when we had discussions about it, was that the teacher would prepare and prep the student Monday and Tuesday of that week, kind of let them know that this is what the virtual day is going to look like. We'd like you to do this, kind of set them up for success on that Wednesday. So conversations had between teacher and student. Student goes, does what the teacher had kind of prepped them for previously, and then Thursday they would come back and be able to talk about it, talk about the experiences, what were some of your difficulties, things like that. So those days are set up to be kind of learning days for the student and for the parent. As Mike said, if we have to go back to it, it's a way for us to communicate, kind of go through it, get some feedback, and then make it better as the weeks go on. And hopefully by the end of September, we're rocking and rolling and being able to do it with some good success. And I know Christine is having a PD day in August for parents for Google Classroom as well. So if parents are interested and want to know more about Google Classroom, that August date is a really good day to come in and really get a better understanding of it.
Yeah. So the platform for elementary is going to be Seesaw, and then Google Classroom for middle school, high school. So as Kyle said, essentially it's training our teachers, training our students, and training our parents that if we have to go back to virtual, which, let's face it, more than likely at some point this year we will have to. It's just training for that. Most of it will probably be recorded if a teacher records them specifically in a Google Classroom, or it might just be working with documents through the Google Classroom that you can bring up on the computer, or maybe through Google Chrome. It might be a Google Doc or a spreadsheet, anything like that. But basically, it should be something that the student, granted, the older the student, the more they can do on their own, and the younger the student, the more help they would need. And trust me, my wife being a kindergarten teacher, she's really stressing about this because kindergartners can't find the M on the keyboard. So it's going to be fun to do. But that's essentially what it's going to be. It may be recorded, maybe live. but it'll be more responsibility on the student and the parent to take care of those days on Wednesday, get the assignment done. That again, Kyle alluded to, the teacher will prep the student beforehand, and so they'll know what to do. And it'll be a learning process, but hopefully if we ever do go virtual, it'll be a much more seamless transition than it was before. All right, Jay.
If you go virtual, are teachers coming into the classrooms to teach?
We lose you, Jay?
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, mic was muted. If you go virtual, are teachers coming into the classrooms to teach?
If we go virtual, if the district decides at some point to go virtual, we would, and again, this is something we'd have to work with our teachers union, but similar to what we did in the spring, and if the executive order looks similar to what it did before, teachers could teach at home if they had the capabilities to teach at home. They would not have to come on campus, because at that point, if we're forced to go virtual, it wouldn't be safe. We would also, if you look at that language, they would, the student or the teacher could, if they needed to come to the classroom, we would provide the classroom for the teacher to work out of. So it could go either way. If the teacher could be in our building, or teacher could work from home, as long as they document that they contacted students and provided instruction.
Yeah, the Michigan Safe Return to School basically doesn't bar them from coming in. So it would, depending on what the new executive order would be, it would either, they would determine they don't want anybody in, or we as a district would determine the safety level of if it's okay for staff to come in. I know a lot of staff would need to access their resources, specifically in the elementary level, to get situated. So at this point, I would like to say we wouldn't ban it if a teacher needs to come to their classroom to get what they need in order to make sure that teaching continues. Okay, Jay.
What will the protocol be if someone who's been in the school tests positive for COVID-19? Is there a chance that in-person learning will be regularly interrupted, and how will that be handled?
I can get this one actually. The protocol is that once they test positive, they have to quarantine, and they have to have 2 negative tests within a 24-hour period in order to come back to school, and that's staff and student alike. What was the other part of that, Jay?
Is there a chance that in-person learning will be regularly interrupted, and how will that be handled?
I know in my district, they're doing the exposure of 15 minutes and 6 feet, and that's why they're doing seating charts and trying to keep kids together as much as possible, the same kids together. Mike, is that something that you've discussed with your staff as far as the seating charts and being able to track or trace, and therefore only a small group of kids maybe have to go through the quarantine or testing, as opposed to like an entire classroom? Is that what you're talking about with the health department?
We've taught, we're going to be working hand in hand with the health department as it states in our plan. We will, as far as seating charts, we haven't talked about that, but it's something that if you're sitting by Johnny all day, or you're in a class because the definition is 15 minutes of close contact. I mean, if you can say that 6 people around this student fit those criteria, then it could quarantine all of those people. Will it interrupt our face-to-face learning? I think it could. I mean, depending on how many of these disruptions we have. But, again, if we don't try, I guess we don't know. But I would assume that there will be disruptions as we move forward with people being quarantined, be it teachers, be it students, support staff, administrators. It's just a matter of how we react to that. And if it gets to a point where it's totally not safe, then the health department will make sure that we're not in session.
Yeah. Or we'll have to do it ourselves, as opposed to leave the state or health department.
Right.
If we find that it's just, we can't operate safely, then we'll have to go virtual, which is all the more important reasons we have those Wednesdays to get everybody practiced up.
Right, and I know this has taken a long time, but I've voiced to the board several times that, one of our biggest issues could potentially be, staffing our facilities. I mean, if we have a situation where we have multiple teachers and multiple bus drivers who are quarantined, it will force us to a virtual level.
Mm-hmm.
So.
All right, next question, Jay.
Are personal space areas, i.e. hangars for backpacks and such, going to be spaced out also?
I'm assuming that's elementary.
Yeah, probably elementary.
At Central Elementary, that would just depend on the number of hooks we have and the number of kids that we will have enrolled. But kids are not getting assigned their own cubby or a locker. Because we just don't have those in place right now.
And at Linwood, there are assigned spaces available that teachers have labeled already. So they will follow those procedures this year.
And again, I guess the best thing I can say to
middle
that.
School, at the middle school, high school. Yep, at the middle school, high school, the plan is to have each student have their own individual locker.
And books. What about your books? We talked about students potentially carrying their books for multiple hours so that they can not have to visit their locker.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we're still in discussions about that, so we got to come to a consensus. But the plan, the talk was, if you're a high school student and you're going to first through third hour, you carry your books. First through third hour, you go to lunch. You'd exchange your books out. After lunch and grab your books for 4 to 6, and then take your books from class to class. So basically, it would just allow for students to not congregate in the hall. They'd just be going from class A to class B throughout the day without having to visit their locker, because that's when the most of the pooling of students happens, is when they're at their lockers, they're talking with their friends and things like that. So that has been discussed. We haven't pulled the trigger on that yet.
All right, thank you. Okay, Jay.
I see that most of Bay County schools is going virtual. Is that changing for us? And when will you know this? And we will find out.
I know when we started this process a month ago, or over a month ago, when the governor came out with the return plan. It was supposed to be an ISD-wide thing. We were all going to do the same thing. That was the proposition, and many weeks were spent doing that. And what has come about is that the very things we're talking about, the logistics of actually meeting the plan. Do you have enough bus drivers? Do you not have enough janitorial people? Are you going to be able to get the personal protective equipment in time? And so as school districts as time has evolved and school districts realize they don't have the teachers, they don't have the janitorial, they're not going to get the PPE, or they can't figure out the nuances or the logistics of meeting the plan, they're having to go virtual. And I will tell you that our staff has worked tirelessly to make that happen. If the governor keeps us in phase 4 and says, if we have you in phase 4, we're saying it's safe for you to return to school given these protocols. And so if we can meet those protocols, which we believe we are doing, there's requirements, there are strong recommendations, and then there are recommendations. We will meet all the requirements. We're going to meet a lot of the strongly recommended items, and quite a few of the recommended ones. So right now we're moving forward with that, and I know we may be the only one in Bay County doing that, and it's a concern. But we've also looked at other schools in the area and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. View, but Sanford, Clare, other Jack Pine conferences, so more northern Bay County and Roscommon and that, kind of more districts similar to us, widespread rural, as opposed to having that more urban and population density issue. So I don't know, you want to add anything to that, Mike?
Well, you're right. We talked to the local schools in our Jack Pine, which are north and to the west. You know, that's not to say they may change tomorrow, but for the most part, I think Midland Public is still going to return face to face. Sanford Meridian, Clare, Harrison. And I believe Standish is going to return in some sort of a face to face. I just don't know what exactly that's going to look like. But we may be one of the only ones or the only one in Bay County at this point. I don't know how their board meetings went, but we're definitely not the only school in the area that is at least moving forward on our face-to-face plan.
All right. Jay, how many more do we have questions? Are we talking 20 or 5 or 10?
At least 30.
Wow. All right. We'll try to expedite these a little bit more, but hopefully there's some double.
Are there like the same? Like, can we knock off, like, it seems like people would have a lot of the same questions, no? Can we strike off?
Potentially, but again, I wanted to make sure everybody's voice was heard.
Sure.
I didn't want to assume meaning.
Okay.
Okay. So if we choose virtual, is it per semester? Is it automatically the whole year?
Semester.
Yep.
If we go virtual, are you going to do lunches for your families?
Yes.
Yeah, that was already answered. That will be a yes. They'll just have to get them. Okay.
How are you doing kids with IEPs?
They'll receive their appropriate services from their special ed teachers.
So they'll still get their services, but it'll have to be modified.
Yep. And if they're virtual, Edgenuity has a support person, their IEP will be discussed with Edgenuity, and then supports will be provided through the virtual program as well.
Okay. This question came through when Mr. Straz was talking. The question was, why is Dr. Thomas Bender not on from the health department?
Yeah.
The next question is, what about the bus where preschool and 12th through 12th grade are mingled?
They will be mingled. They will be. We are going to try to practice social distancing on our buses with masks and sanitizing, but that will be one part of the day when students, if they choose to use our transportation, we will try to get family members to sit together and limit the number of students we have per seat.
Okay. Good. Did I hear correctly that the students and staff will not be temperature checked, reviewed for symptoms upon arrival to the school?
That's correct, but staff will have to fill out a questionnaire. Students will be screened at home, but staff will have to fill out a health questionnaire that has been developed by the health department.
And again, that's working with the health department, and that's pretty standard of what other districts are doing who are opening. They're leaving it to parents to screen their kids, and each individual office maybe screening teachers. Next.
If or when quarantined, will students be expected to do remote learning at home during this time?
Yes, if possible. They will be, if they're quarantined and able to do the work, they will be provided the work. If they are too ill, then they will get, our grading policy allows for them to, upon return, make that work up. So if they're quarantined and they're able, then they can do their work. If they need to make it up, then they can do it upon return.
Go ahead, Jay.
All right.
Are all staff being required to check their temperatures before coming into work?
Yes.
All staff members. Yep. Okay.
If a student develops symptoms and is found to be plus 3 days later,
positive, 3 days later, will the rest of the class need a quarantine? Say it is a first grade class where they all stay together most of the day.
We'll be dealing, if they test positive, then the health department will get involved and determine who needs to be quarantined. That's what Joel said earlier today. I think that answers the question, doesn't it?
Yeah, it goes back to tracing. That's what the health department will come in. You know, who is the kid, who is around them. So that's why seating charts are important, and try to keep the same group of kids together so you don't take out a whole class as opposed to just maybe a fourth of it or a certain group. And that's going to be tough to do, especially in the lower elementary. But that is the plan. But a whole classroom, it may happen. It all depends on the tracing in the health department.
A similar follow-up question. What if a high school, middle school teacher tests positive? Will all their students in their class be quarantined? What about the students in those classes' siblings?
The siblings may, again, that'll be the health department and doing the trace. But really the teacher, we should be able to have a sub go in there. That's going to be tough to get right now. But that's the plan, is just to keep things going as possible. But go ahead, John or Mike. You guys want to jump on that?
I was just going to say, you know, with a high school teacher, you can also look at whether or not they put themselves in a spot to where they have close contact. They may be up at their desk behind a shield and not really been in close contact. So again, those are things that we have to do on a case-by-case basis. Could it impact multiple classes? Yes.
Okay. If the children are riding buses together and there is an outbreak in middle school, high school, are the elementary students to be quarantined as well?
That again goes right back to the tracing of where people were sitting on the bus. And I don't know if you guys have talked about having assigned seats on the bus at all, Mike. I know we've done that down in the township, but
yeah, we also have cameras on the bus to where we could see who was in what proximity and trace that to where potentially there could be people that were right next to them that could have been in close contact. But yeah, we have, you know, a bus, what do you call it? A bus, what do you call it? Seating chart could be in place, but I think if we needed to backtrack, we could always use video.
Yeah, good. Next one, Jay.
Are we staying on campus with high school lunches?
Yes.
Yes. I think we determined that at least for the first semester, correct?
Yeah, it's, you know, the phase we're in. I did talk to Bay City Western I talked to the superintendent in Bay City. He said that they were that Western was going to follow a closed campus to start, but now that if they go virtual, obviously that's a moot point. But their plan was to not let the students out at lunchtime, and we'll do the same until if potentially go to level phase 6 or whatever we determine is safe, then we'll let them.
How are you socially distancing students in the classrooms to meet the recommended 6-foot requirement?
Well, we'll try to spread it out as much as possible, but the social distancing is only strongly recommended. It's not a requirement. If it was a requirement, you'd only be having 10 students in a class, and we'd be going like on an AB or ABC schedule where kids would only be in the school, you know, once, twice a week tops. So that's why it's important that all students wear their masks. We know K1 doesn't have to. They'll do a lot of, again, working in groups, social distancing as much as they can. I think we only have about 20 or 22 kids in kindergarten right now that I know of, so it makes it a little bit easier. But yeah, it's going to be tough to do.
We're also looking at seating. The seats will be facing forward, or so that students aren't, I guess, breathing on each other.
Yeah, and you have the partitions.
Right, the desk shields.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Woodruff has a message about getting devices for all students. Is that just for virtual students?
No, we're going to be giving devices to all of our students, K-12, along with a protective carrying case. We will distribute those early in the school year.
The health director mentioned having safe centers at other districts for kids to come to schools. Are we looking into that?
Mike?
That's the first I've heard of him talk of a safe center.
Yeah.
If that is a situation where we can bring, like I said, bring kids in a socially distant manner and provide like a computer lab to help them out, or a tutor. I mean, it's something we definitely can consider, but I want to know what that looks like. But at this point, we don't have anything planned, unless, Mark, you can think of something.
No, that was the first I heard of it too. So, I mean, as much as you and I have talked, I haven't heard anything about that, not even in my district. So, I guess we need to follow up with that, or whoever asked that question, I guess I would call the health department and find out about it, and you can relay the information to us, or I guess you'll have some answers there. But I think that's something we need to follow up with, Mike.
Okay.
All right, Jay.
Are lockers being cleaned every hour or at specific times?
Kyle or Mike?
Yeah, they'll be cleaned periodically throughout the day. We'll have our custodial staff wipe down lockers combinations, and I would say at a minimum twice a day as the day goes on. But we do have that in our plan to sanitize those highly touched objects frequently throughout the day.
Okay. If you have a case, are you closing the room for 24 hours before you clean it?
I've not heard that as a recommendation. We'll clean it sooner than that with the protective gear, and because we probably won't even know. I mean, we got to suspect it's COVID, so we won't know the testing for a while, but we will definitely clean it and then resume. We will move the students out of that classroom, so it would potentially be vacant for 24 hours.
You know, just following protocol on that from that return to safe school and work with the health department. But yeah, it'll be cleaned definitely before the next day, if not immediately.
Right. This one I think we covered, but they said that I heard that 30% are wanting to do virtual. That means that if there was a classroom of 30 before, teachers still have a classroom of 20 some students. How do you socially distance them? I think that went with the 6 foot.
Yeah, we're going to try to distance as best we can. It really depends on how many people go virtual.
Can kids change classes? How does that work? I think we covered that too.
Yep.
Is virtual by assignment or logged in so many hours?
The Ingenuity,
yeah, go ahead.
The Ingenuity program. Each class has its own set process, and so it is kind of a just lesson by lesson progression is generally how they're set up. You can get anywhere probably between 1% and 5% done in an hour. It really depends on what your skill set is. So some students may be able to work at a faster pace, some may be at a slower pace, but it really is kind of individualized. And with having a teacher as a mentor, you can bounce questions off them and they can help you. So it's actually what I use in my school. So I'm pretty familiar with it. Outside of Edgenuity, I don't know if you want to add anything to it.
No, that'll be our.
Okay. All right, Jay.
If my student is doing in-person learning, first grade, and we go back to stage 3, will my student be doing online learning through their teacher or the Edgenuity program?
Their teacher.
If a high school senior chooses virtual platform, will they still be able to do in-person skill center?
Yes.
Yes.
This person asks, if we think we will have to go virtual, why not just start remotely like the surrounding schools just decided? Consistency is important. I think we kind of covered that too.
Yeah, we can touch on it a bit. I know specifically with the younger elementary kids, it's important, well, with all teachers and students, is to establish that relationship. But it's really, I think it's important to start out this way, is to get those protocols done, which will make it easier. Again, while we're doing those virtual days on Wednesdays, is hopefully we won't have to. We have low numbers in northern Bay County. We're hoping we don't have to go back to virtual. We may very well have to, but I guess we're kind of rolling the dice. We think we meet the governor's guidelines, and we have the personnel to make the logistics work at this point. And so that's why we're kind of moving forward with this. Again, 30% want virtual, 30% want back in the class. There's no great answer. If we don't get any COVID cases, we'll be glad that we made this move. So we'll have to. It's going to be a wait and see. But I don't debate your point.
The Edgenuity program, is that through the school or is that a program we pay for?
The Edgenuity?
Yeah.
We pay for that service. The district does.
The students, the parents, nobody, they don't pay. It's part of an overhead cost to us.
Okay, how do you expect parents to do well checks when students are sent to school with other illness?
Well, they need to focus on the symptoms that we're going to be telling them to look for, and those are four commonly. Mr. Strauss from the health department told us he's going to provide an updated questionnaire with the most likely symptoms. So I guess if they're feeling, if they have a stomach ache or they have an earache and it's not part of the health screener and they don't have a fever, I guess that they just need to be educated on what to look for, if I understood the question.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay, an observation. We've had issues with spoiled milk in the past when things were normal. If the children are being served or this is yet to be figured out, I hope this issue has been addressed.
Yes, Sue.
Yep.
Next
Sue,
one.
go ahead.
So, sometimes we have gotten milk that comes from the dairy, and until that milk is opened and consumed, we don't know that it has been spoiled. We can only be proactive by giving them something, offering them something alternate to drink at that point, and then isolating the milk that would be of that same date from delivery. And that might be that they would be offered a water or a juice as a beverage. And then we would have to note that on our records for the state. So if we were audited, they would understand why that dairy product was not offered for the day. Typically, in any building, if a student has an issue with any product that they receive for a meal that's not satisfactory, they need to take it immediately up to one of the staff members so that we can make a correction for them. But again, with a carton of milk, we do not know that it's going to be bad until that student might open it and smell it or try to pour it or actually taste it. Unfortunately, that's just the nature of the product.
So is the milk, is it being served post date, or is that it's just spoiled before it was supposed to?
It would be, we never serve milk that is past date. We don't serve any product that's past date.
Okay.
So it would be product that maybe had been in a truck that the temperature didn't keep where it should have, and it was abused before it got to us. Typically doesn't happen. We do have reputable suppliers, but sometimes things like that happen. I mean, I'm sure that I've bought milk at a grocery store that still had a good date and it did not taste good, and I had to return it. So sometimes that happens, unfortunately, and all we can do is make that correction at that point.
Your dad gave up too early.
All right. Thank you, Sue.
So if a student tests positive, all his or her teachers and students in hours 1 through 6 will have to quarantine?
No, that goes back to the trace. We can't tell you if it's going to be nobody or we have to shut down the school as far as the cases come up. It's going to be the health department looking at the trace information, and they'll dictate who needs to be quarantined, who needs to be tested, all that. So it's really going to be a case-by-case basis.
Okay, just two more. You want to limit the virus getting into the building, but if the parent is responsible, how are we assured they're actually being safe? Kids come to school sick all the time because parents have to work.
Yes, we understand that, and that's part of the problem and why parents have to be even more vigilant this time. It's not because this is so transmittable. We really need parents not to do that anymore, and are people still going to do it? I hate to say it, but they probably will. I don't know if anybody else wants to chime on, and we've got to protect our own community. And if your kid or you as a staff member, just doesn't feel right, you need to not come into school. You need to protect your community and not do what's easiest for you, but what's best for the community. So I don't know if anybody else wants to jump in, but that's my 2 cents.
I'll just simply say that if that's going on, it jeopardizes putting this whole school in lockdown, So, you might send your one kid to school, but you jeopardize putting the whole school in lockdown, which creates a whole slew of problems. So,
yeah. And
ask the parents to be diligent and work with us.
Yeah, if it happens enough, then we will walk into that scenario as far as we will have to go to phase 3 and we won't have in person. And that's not going to be the school's fault so much as maybe the community. So again, protect your community, protect the school, and we can all get through this year together. I guess that's the best thing I can say is, think about your community. So one more, Jay, hopefully.
Yep, one more. Are we asking the kids to clean desks? What type of cleaner? Washing hands after? There are no sinks in the high school classrooms.
So we are considering the fact that they can wash their desks. The cleaners are safe. We will have hand sanitizer there as well. But again, this is a process we are working through, and we think it's permissible based on the language that the safe school allowing students to clean their desks, because we don't think we could bring custodians in every hour and clean the desks and still have those cleaned in a timely manner. So that is being considered.
Yeah.
It is going to evolve.
I think we need to revisit that one. We got to look at that executive order again, or the My Safe Return. I'm not sure if we can do that or not. So we'll have to look at that one again. I know that's the easiest solution. Again, I've looked at so many documents, I might be getting confused, but
right.
I want to make sure we are doing that.
I don't recall anything in the executive orders about the students not being able to clean up after themselves. And as a matter of fact, they're having other places to do it. Like even at the gym, when we go to the gym, You have to clean up your own equipment after you're done with it. And I know it's different with students and kids, but I haven't seen anything. I've been looking over those pretty closely myself. So I don't know.
I guess I want to double check for my own satisfaction, check my memory.
Yep.
Kelly, can you?
And I can say that at the high school, middle school level. Oh, sorry.
Kelly, can you explain what you mean for in-person teaching for essential workers? I guess I'm not following what you mean in the chat here. You say, is there any thought for in-person for the students of essential? Oh, okay. So like elementary level, or are you talking worrying about spreading the COVID? Both. So is there any thought for in-person teaching for essential workers, for the students of essential workers?
Well, we are
I
considering.
believe it's as opposed to virtual because essential workers can't be home to be with their kids to do it virtual.
Okay,
So-
she's saying yes to that. So Mike or Kyle or Jay, anybody want to?
Only to the amount we permissible, because if like right now, if we're in phase 4, obviously we are providing face-to-face. If we go to phase 3 and it's similar, we won't be able to work with any students within the building. So it would have to be remote of some kind, is my understanding.
Okay. All right. Anything else, Jay?
Finally, I just wanted to mention that many of the questions tonight were asked by the same people, just at different times. But there are quite a few responses at the end here, expressing their gratitude for answering their questions, for taking the time. They feel it was very informative, and they're very happy that we did this. So
Great. Thanks for letting us know that. I know everybody's been working really hard on this. So thanks. All right. I think that'll end the question and answer session. I appreciate all of you guys staying on and giving up so much of your evening, and obviously Mike, all your staff. This has been an experience, one that I care not to repeat. And for those of you up for re-election, thank you. Nicole.
I like the feedback we got, and I appreciate the board staying on and being able to hear the concerns and how we're dealing with them. But I know I'm done talking, so you guys can go to bed.
Good night, and thank you.
Everybody.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye-bye.